Today, my talk will focus on the attributes of toxic, deceitful political leaders and their impact. Toxic and deceitful political leaders exhibit a range of negative attributes and behavior that can have detrimental impacts on their countries, institutions, and society. Let's explore some of these attributes and their potential consequences. 1. Dishonesty. Toxic leaders often engage in deceit and dishonesty to achieve their goals. They may make false promises, spread misinformation, or manipulate the truth to maintain their power or further their agenda. 2. Narcissism. Many toxic leaders display narcissistic traits which can lead to a self-centered and ego-driven approach to leadership. They prioritize their own interests and image above the needs of their constituents or country. 3. Authoritarianism. Toxic leaders tend to rule with an iron fist, suppressing dissent and opposition. They may stifle democracy, curtail civil liberties, and undermine the rule of law to consolidate their power. 4. Divisiveness. These leaders often exploit division within society to create polarization and conflict. They may use identity politics or other divisive techniques to maintain support among certain segments and the population. 5. Corruption. Toxic leaders may engage in corruptive practices such as embezzlement, bribery, and cronyism, leading to the misallocation of resources and economic instability. 6. Lack of accountability. They typically evade accountability for their actions and decisions, blaming others or external factors for failure and missteps. Their lack of accountability erodes trust in government institutions. 7. Short-term focus. Toxic leaders often prioritize short-term gains over long-term sustainability. They may implement policy that provide immediate benefits to their supporters but have negative consequences in the long run. 8. Incompetence. Some toxic leaders lack the skills and knowledge required for effective governance. Their decision may be based on personal biases rather than evidence-based analysis, leading to poor policy outcomes. 9. Erosion of institutions. Toxic leaders can undermine the integrity and independence of key institutions such as the judiciary, media, and civil service, weakening the checks and balances necessarily for a functioning democracy. 10. Social unrest. Their divisive and authoritarian tactics can contribute to social unrest, protests, and even violence within a country. This instability can have severe humanitarian and economic consequences. 11. International isolation. Toxic leaders may damage their country's reputation on the international stage through erratic behavior, disregard for diplomatic norms, and confrontational foreign policies. The impact of toxic and deceitful political leaders can be profound and far-reaching. 1. Erosion of trust. These leaders can erode trust in government and political institutions, leading to a lack of confidence in the democratic process. 2. Political polarization. They often exacerbate political polarization, making it difficult for opposing parties or groups to work together for the common good. 3. Economic consequences. Short-sighted and corrupted policy can lead to economic stagnation, poverty, and inequality. 4. Human rights violation. Authoritarian leaders may engage in human rights abuses, including suppression of dissent, censorship, and even violence against their own citizens. 5. International isolation. Their confrontation foreign policies can damage diplomatic relations, trade, and international cooperation, isolating their country on the global stage. 6. Social unrest. Divisive techniques can lead to protests, strikes, and civil unrest, disrupting daily life and creating instability. 7. Weakened institutions. Key institutions may be weakened or co-opted, undermining the rule of law and the separation of powers. In conclusion, toxic and deceitful political leaders can have a profoundly negative impact on their countries and societies. Their behaviors and attributes erode trust, create division, and often lead to economic, political, and social instability. Recognizing and addressing the consequences of such leadership is essential for the well-being of nations and their citizens.